Hola a todos y todas, bienvenidos a Talkin Wellness, presentado por South Florida Wellness Network. Mi nombre es Cristian.
Mi nombre es Kayla.
And welcome back. So, as you saw by the title and as you saw by our little intro right now, today we're talking about the beautiful topic of Hispanic Heritage Month and what is the beauty of being Hispanic and the beauty of being Latino or Latina or whatever you identify as. And basically, this is going to be a two-parter. You know, we're gonna basically try to split this up into two episodes. So today, you're going to be watching episode A, if you will, and then next week, you'll be catching up on episode B. But today, we're going to be talking specifically about maybe some of the struggles that the Latino community faces or the Hispanic community faces. We're going to start with some descriptions and stuff like that. But before we get into all those beautiful topics and important conversations, we have two very special guests with us today. Would you please like to say your name and what you do here at South Florida Wellness Network?
Hi, my name is Virginia, and they call me Gigi.
Yeah, Gigi.
And I am a recovery navigator.
Wonderful.
I work in the front desk.
Perfect.
And she is amazing.
Yeah, she is. She's great.
She's a mentor to us all.
Oh,
That's true.
yes.
She is a mentor to us all.
I'm Ed. I'm here. I am an outreach specialist, engagement guy.
He's the guy.
Depending what the new job title is.
Yeah, right. Depending whatever the week needs you to
Depending
be.
where I am.
He's the guy that the community knows.
Yeah.
That's Ed.
That's
He's
true.
also awesome.
He's our community guy. You guys might recognize Ed from some of our past episodes. He was one of our guests in the men's mental health episode, and he's popped in a few episodes here and there. So we're officially bringing you back, Ed. This is a really exciting moment.
Amen.
But the reason is because all of us here in this table and Mr. Michael, who's behind the camera, we all share a common bond, and is that we're all Latino in some way, shape, or form. So we thought it'd be best if we utilized our time today to not only talk about some of the negatives, but also talk about some of the positives. And that's going to kind of be the breakdown of today's episode. Today, we're going to start specifically with some of the challenges that a lot of our communities face. And then next week, you guys are going to see some of the positive things and some of the positive traits that the Latino community brings to the table, if you will, and things that we can all kind of like look to and be like, yeah, I want to learn how to be more like this, right? So I think it's best if we start specifically with definitions, right? We talked a little bit beforehand about what is Latino and what is Hispanic, right? A lot of people have different opinions and a little bit of confusion. The word Latino in and of itself, it's very simple. Basically means you are from or have ancestry from Latin America, which is Central and South America and a little bit of the Caribbean, right? So this area or just geographic area is what's considered to be Latino, right? And then Hispanic has to do with the Spaniards, right? Hispanic is Spanish speaking, and they were at some point in some way colonized by Spain. So by this context, not every country that speaks Spanish is Latino, and not every country that speaks Spanish is Hispanic, right? For example, one of my favorite examples of this is when I remember studying about this years ago, and I had a friend from Spain, and then we had this conversation, and I said, well, yeah, you're not Hispanic. And he goes, what are you talking about? I speak Spanish. That's not the meaning of Hispanic. You are from Spain. You've never been conquered by Spain. So therefore, you're not Hispanic. But that doesn't mean you're not important, obviously. And we had that conversation. And then for Latinos, it's the same thing. Like a lot of people are like, well, Portuguese people aren't Latino. That's not true. They are. Latino. Portuguese people from Brazil are Latinos because they are in Latin America. So it's important to analyze these things because I feel that we have a bad tendency to leave out a lot of people when it comes to celebrating our culture and what the beauty of being Latino and the beauty of being Hispanic. And I think, you know, especially in these times, it's important to unify rather than separate. What do you guys think?
Correct. Yes. Yes, in some way and different ways, we are united.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Language, culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love if we could utilize our time we are in Hollywood, you know, South Florida, and we work with and support Spanish-speaking people here all the time. I know Gigi, I hear her talking on the phone in Spanish all the time,
Yes.
and I see you at the front meeting with Spanish speakers. I meet with a couple of Spanish speakers. So I kind of want to start there. I feel like one of the biggest barriers that we see especially in South Florida, is language. You know, for example, with my caseload and the participants that I'm working with, one of the biggest challenges, we're trying to find support groups, for example. And I keep looking literally in every website. I've been to not conferences. I've been going to trainings. I'm meeting with different people. I cannot find a support group for Spanish speakers.
But do you think that that's more so language or more so stigma and acceptance of mental health, to where there are more prevalent Spanish speakers that are creating these things, like that community of recovery? What would you guys say?
Well, I will say that is changing already. Yes, it's changing. I think our community is getting more aware and getting more educated about mental health.
I agree.
There's some barriers and some lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
But I think we are evolving about that, and I experienced that here because even you said that we don't have in South Florida Wellness, we don't have maybe a support group now. We will have it, but a lot of people call here because I received like 3 calls saying like, "Oh, I'm calling you because somebody told me that the only people that can support me, emotional support, they have emotional support, is with the Spanish speaking, is you guys." So I think people are getting more like how can I say, like more they're growing more, you know, in that sense, in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think it's a community thing, right? Like the word is getting out there. You know, advocates of mental health are making sure to tell people, hey, it's important. Like that conference. Remember that conference that we went to earlier this year, for BBHC?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for like we're spreading the word. We're trying to teach families that, hey, it's important to take care of your mental health, and if your kid is not doing good, be there for them. Ask them, hey, how are you doing? How can I support you? Right?
That is
what would be like the Hispanic in culture, like what has been basically, because you said we're evolving, which is great, we're moving the needle, but what is the typical kind of thought process in Hispanic culture about mental health, about substance use?
I think it's a kind of lack of knowledge, like I said, but at the same time we have some kind of pride that we have to break. Yeah, we have a lot of pride and we like to hide things. We like to deny.
Yeah, we do.
We live in denial. Even in my family, I grew up in a family with mental health, but they never told me they had mental health. They only say, "Oh no, she's suffering from nervous system." You know, maybe they didn't know exactly, but sometimes it's not. They don't know. It's because they don't want people to know they've been through that. You know. And I can tell by my lived experience, when I was teenager, I noticed that my mom was kind of different, you know?
Yeah.
And that she had maybe something, whatever, but she never was diagnosed with mental health until she had a breakdown.
Oh, wow.
And at the beginning, my brothers, they were like ashamed of it. So they don't want to admit it. And in my case, what I did is let me know a little bit more about this, because I knew it since I was little that she had some kind of condition, let's say.
Yeah.
And that was me, but not everybody is the same.
Yep.
So still, I'm me as in my family, I'm trying to break those walls, those barriers.
Why do you think that there are walls and barriers like that, where there's like such a shame with regards to a condition such as mental health?
Like I say, pride. Yeah, and lack of knowledge. That's what I'm not going to say. I don't like to use the word ignorance. Because it sounds a little bit perspective, I prefer to use lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be like
So-
looked at differently too, like, or as weak, as seen as weak, or
Yes, it's even though if people have cancer in the family and in our culture, they hide it.
oh wow.
Yeah.
So it's
They
not even
hide
just
that.
it's all
yes,
things.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. I think it's lack of knowledge, but more is pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, pride is a big one because, especially in Latino culture or Hispanic culture even, like there's this really weird perspective for some reason. And we've talked about it on the podcast before. There's this really strange perspective that I need to get through this by myself and like I'm not going to let anybody else know. And I obviously today I can speak and say, hey, I don't believe in that and that's strange. But back then when that was the norm, it's kind of hard to break away from that, right? And now we're, like Gigi said, we're kind of building those blocks of like, hey, you need to talk about stuff, like I've talked about some of the participants that I've worked with in the past, right? And having to talk to parents and be like, hey, are you interested in getting support services? And they go, no, I'm okay. I don't need that. It's my son. My son is has problems, not me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's so common
Yeah.
in Latin cultures.
I live that here
There you go.
twice.
Projection.
And I say, I
Yeah.
think you
Projection.
need. And then I said to
Sir.
the parent, I think you need to somewhere
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just something that I think it's one of those negative things that we all kind of share and when it comes to culture. Like we all know a tío or a tía who just refuses to get help, or we all know of a cousin or
a
sibling
parent.
or a
Yeah.
parent that just doesn't understand and they say the nastiest comments and we're like, oh, that was
Yeah.
so it's like I can think about like I'll never forget when I have an uncle who I was talking to him about mental health and about like the job that I do here, and he at first he was like, but I don't understand like why that's important, like I don't understand what you're doing, and then little by little he started kind of like understanding it, and now he's seeking mental health support and now he's seeking all these things, and I'm like, that's what it's about.
like I said, lack of knowledge.
How can we be, us as Latinos who are in recovery, how can we be those, I guess you can say, totems or stones to allow that conversation to happen and move like Kayla said, the needle forward, right?
Well, we have a work to do.
Of course.
And it's generational too. Like my generation, if you talk to them about mental health, they don't want to talk about
Yeah.
it.
They don't want it.
They don't want to talk about. But I think, like I said, that topic is changing.
Yeah.
With
Well, I think it's
years-
because of desperation too.
Yes.
There's a desperation.
Yes, yes.
Because that's what I've seen, and that's where we're getting those calls. But it's not. So we're changing, but there's still a long way to go because people, like you said, they're calling. They say you're like the only resource. We need more than one resource,
Of course,
to meet
yeah.
the needs
Yeah.
of the Hispanic and Latino communities.
Yeah.
Correct.
We're getting there.
I don't want us to be the only resource,
Correct.
I want it to be more open and readily available.
Well, I call myself like the John the Baptist.
Uh-huh.
That he has to prepare the
way.
the way
prepare the way.
for
You're the voice in the
That's
wilderness.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
voice in the wilderness.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes, you are.
So we're doing that work. And if in, let's say, I don't know, maybe 5 years, 10 years, everything's going to be different. And like you say, the needs that and the desperation they have now, it's pushing them to look for help.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
search for help.
Yeah.
Because it's increasing.
Absolutely.
It is increasing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is increasing because maybe the world situation, but at the same time, it's because people are getting more knowledge.
Yeah, which is great.
And the information is right there.
yeah.
That's why technology is a good tool, and it could be a bad tool, but it's a good tool if
Yeah,
you use it
if you use it correctly, absolutely.
Correctly,
Yeah.
because all the information is there.
Yeah.
So people know about any kind of behavior.
Thing that they would want to know. Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question, and Ed, I don't know if you want to chime into this, both of you guys, but in your experience, how has the concept of machismo or traditional gender roles affected the way mental health is perceived in Hispanic communities?
I see Ed all
It's
excited.
it's like an onion, okay?
Oh.
Just like the questions that you were
Has
posing
layers.
to Gigi and how she answered. Everything is stupid, dumb pride. And it's fear.
Yes.
Correct.
And it doesn't even matter as far as male or female. I don't want to look weak.
Exactly. Right.
By you saying that and by you coming to somebody like that and communicating like that, you're showing you're weak. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be trepidatious. The man in the arena, the woman in the arena,
Right.
just get in there and get dirty. It's okay.
Right. Right.
You know, just like in recovery, what did I tell you yesterday, Gigi? We are so comfortable with that familiar hell because we know what it is. We know what it is to be in misery. I don't want to get any better. I don't want help. He's the one who needs help.
Yeah. Oh
No, no.
not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
How much easier it
And then
is, right?
it's that projection.
Yeah.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
That's correct.
But then it's that unfamiliar hell.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that unfamiliar heaven.
Yes.
Okay? It's so scary.
Yeah. Of
So
course.
once I break down this barrier of stupid pride that I always need to be strong, it's all just a mask, man. It's
a
all a
mask. I
mask.
love
all a
it.
mask,
The
yeah.
root is, what is the root? Pride.
It is.
Exactly.
That's
Dumb,
right.
dumb pride.
Dumb pride. Yeah.
Don't pride, yes.
I liked how
Yeah.
I like to word things. There is such thing for me anyway, and I do get criticism. There's a righteous pride. There's a righteous.
Yeah.
Why am I coming at you this way? Because of my intent. Why, Ed? I'll explain that to you. Right? But for me, that's the biggest thing. But it's both male and female. But yes, as far as the
Yeah.
machismo is a big thing. The men, we don't want to look weak at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
At all. Even if it's to the detriment of our child,
Yeah.
of our loved one.
Of the
It's
kid,
not me. It's all on him.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like we have to deconstruct this narrative, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's what I'm hearing, because it's really a narrative. Because why do I
Yeah.
carry this pride? Why
Absolutely.
do I feel this way that I have to always look strong, and this is the way I have to do it at the cost of this?
Yeah.
So I will hold on to this even though it's really killing me and my family and
Yes.
everyone around me.
Well,
Correct.
here's something interesting that I want to bring up. As soon as you said the word machismo, immediately what came to my mind was bootstraps. That old American saying, like,
Pick
you gotta
yourself up by-
pick yourself up by the straps of your boots or whatever it is, right? So and I want to hear you guys' perspective of this. How do you compare machismo to that analogy of the American get up, tie up your shoes, and go to work?
Balance.
Is there any comparison there?
Balance.
Balance, yeah.
Could you
By
elaborate?
by me picking all of us picking up ourselves up by our bootstraps is how. What does Ed always say? Create your own energy. There's only so much. I'm guilty of that. Doing so much research on something, read so many books, watch so many YouTube videos. It's not until I take that step forward
Correct action.
and put that action in there, and now I am creating my own energy. Okay, I'm creating. That's the thing that's driving me, right? I'm creating it. Are we all getting
Yeah.
help along the way? Sure, but you need to like actually step in and create it yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two
Correct.
things. Faith without works is dead, right? So we can take all the knowledge and we want, right? We're in a world of knowledge, but knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power.
That is correct.
So it's don't get stuck in the books and the reading and all of those things without actually taking those steps in what's uncomfortable, like what you said, that uncomfortable heaven, because I'm so familiar with hell. Almost like the frog that is
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
in the boiling water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
is-
So, I guess that leads me to my next question, which is why is help seen as a bad thing? I would argue in both communities, in the Latino community and the American community.
Yeah.
Why is help seen as such a bad thing? What do you guys think?
Pride. That it goes back to the pride. And,
Pride and like I say, lack of knowledge and pride.
We don't
Yeah.
want to look weak.
Both
man.
we don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
And remember, generation through generation is
That's
a
what I was going to.
programming.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've been programming.
that's
Yes.
what I was going
There
to.
is a programming.
I-
So, let's say my mom, which is the first one who was more open to a lot of knowledge, she told me one thing. Then I told my kids another thing. You know. So in my generation, I broke a lot of programming that I had. Like when my two boys were crying, say, oh, our programming and our culture say, men don't cry, boys don't cry.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
I say,
that's true.
cry.
These
You need to
messages.
cry because you have an emotion that has to go out. So I don't really
I
care.
love it.
I want to share an analogy real quick.
Yes.
I'll never forget back in high school. My mom is the same way. She was like, if you need to cry, cry. Do it. Don't hold it. So I'll never forget. On my leg, I had a ingrown something, either pimple or hair, and it was creating a lot of
Ingrown hair
pain,
is
a lot
horrible.
of swelling. And my mom, we went to the bathroom and she helped me take care of it. But I was holding on to the towel and I was trying to stay so quiet. And she goes, Christian, if you need to curse, if you need to cry, if you need to scream,
Let it out.
do it.
Let it out, man.
And I'll never forget, that was the first time I ever cursed in front of my mother. I said, fudge! You know, like the afterwards. And she was so supportive. You're like, Ansel, do it. Keep going.
Oh my gosh. That's
But
funny.
it's interesting because, again, it's breaking down those barriers.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the point I wanted to go to. I think a big problem here is not just pride, it's generational trauma.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's this really, I want to say unhealthy, I think that's the best word, unhealthy pattern that keeps happening from great-grandpa to son to grandkids, etc.
Yeah.
Where they keep perpetuating or they keep sharing this
Yeah.
mentality, and I think that's a very dangerous thing, right? And now you could argue, well, the world is changing and younger people are becoming more aware, or they're getting dumber, however you want to think about it. But the point is that now is when I see the pendulum swing the other way. Whereas 10 years ago, when I was a kid, that wasn't necessarily the case.
Well, what are some of these messages? I want to hear, like, okay, men don't cry. Let's talk about some of the messages that you all have had to overcome and some of that narrative or trauma and honestly, I sometimes think it was even protective factors because from great grandfather, we don't know necessarily all of the things that they were faced with in their time.
Correct.
And when you look at like a family member born in the Great Depression, like the landscape of society, right, shapes that socioeconomic despair. Like there's all of
Correct.
these things that shape these messages. So what are some of these messages though that we have noticed really hinder us that you've had to break with break the cycle with your children?
Yeah, one of those was the one that I shared a few minutes ago. It's with the boys, and another one is cooking. The cooking part. The household chores.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
that's a big one. That's
I
a big
always,
one.
yeah, I always say to my children, I made a lot of mistakes, but one thing that I taught them is a family is a team.
Yes.
You need to work as a
Right.
team.
Yeah.
It's not mommy is gonna cook and she's gonna
Clean
wash the
and do all
dishes
this, yeah.
and do no. My kids,
I see what you're saying now. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So they grew up in a especially when I live in Dominican Republic where I was born, over there it's easier to have a person to help you out at home, like a housekeeper or maid, whatever. But when I moved here with them, they were little, so I have to teach them how can we survive each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
and they can be a little bit independent.
Wow, that's
Because
great.
I
Yep.
told them to be independent
Yep.
and emotionally independent too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be there for them all the time,
Yep.
you know. So I say, okay, everybody have to get the grocery shopping from the car.
Groceries, trash,
Everybody
dishes,
has-
bathroom.
That's your food. You're gonna eat
You
your
delegate.
food.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great.
Yes, let's do it. And then
You're
those type of
totally
things.
right. And I want to talk because I want to mention something. When I lived in California, I used to live with a lot of Mexican people, right? One of my best friends is from Mexico, born in Mexico. And one of the things that I see in Mexican culture is exactly what you're talking about, those gender roles, where the woman is supposed to clean, cook, take care of the husband, clean his clothes, yada, 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 yada.
I would
And
not make a good
there you go.
wife.
My mom anti that. She hates it just like you. Like everybody got to do work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'll never forget. It was after a church thing. We went after church to somebody's home, Mexican family, and my mom is sitting. We're eating food, and she notices that the wife
Serving to the
was serving all the people.
And you have to serve the husband first, and he has to eat before you eat. That was how it was in my grandma's home.
Exactly, just like that, serving everybody. And my mom was like, Doña, do you need help? In Spanish, of course. Do you need help? And she's like, oh, no, it's okay, I got it. And it was like, and we could see her sweating. So my mom, with her, again, her little bit of pride as well, she gets up and she forcefully goes to the kitchen and starts grabbing plates and handing it to people. And then another lady did it. And then another lady did it. And like all them guys started getting in the mix. And then us, the youngsters got in the mix. And we all started serving the food, right? So it's funny that you mentioned that, because that is so prevalent in the Latin community, is those gender roles and breaking away from that.
Of course,
like you're talking about.
And
like
that's the machism is, we have to break that, because sometimes we as a women, we collaborate with that too.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's
there you
something
go.
like moms have to break that.
Yeah.
Well,
sometimes that's got to
If you're-
cook too.
This is the whole thing. Remember we touched upon yesterday after the fact? It's all about feeling appreciated. If I'm going to make you feel appreciated for what
Valuable.
you're doing, that you're providing that value, and I'm providing, we were just
Your
talking about
value.
that value, guess what? You're going to want to do it anyway. Okay?
And
That's
do it
just a-
more.
and
Because,
do it
yep.
more.
Right.
This is the value that he is providing for me.
I feel good.
Gee,
I do
damn it, I'm going to reciprocate. And if this is how I'm going to reciprocate, I'm going to find joy in doing so. That's just a stupid thing that you're expected to do certain things. And that pisses me off.
Yeah, because that may not even be your strength. You know, you may be a woman who is not blessed with cooking hands, and your
Absolutely.
husband husband is the cook.
Correct.
You know,
Your
but
husband's
sometimes
linguine.
that's seen
Yeah.
as like what's going on here? You know, he's serving her. You know what I mean? So it's like we can make room for this and that, right? Depending on the people
And the skills
and
we
the
have.
And your
skills that
skills.
we have.
Absolutely,
Skill set.
absolutely.
We are a team.
Yeah,
That's it.
there's a danger. You know, I love titles and stuff like that. Expectation versus appreciation. That is absolutely
go.
true.
Thank you.
That is
Like,
true.
is this an expectation for me, or am I doing this because I want to support you?
Right.
I love that.
That's the
Yes.
mentality we need to have in families. And I've seen it even with my wife. We've been married now for 3 months. And like, it's been getting to a point where I've had to break that. Why am I expecting my wife to do this for me when she's doing it because she
think-
wants to. She's kind.
Right.
So my expectation needs to be challenged with appreciation. Thank you, honey, for
There you
making
go.
dinner.
That's it.
Let me grab the
And it's
dishes.
so easy.
Yes.
Thank you, honey, for putting away my laundry. Let me put in your load. Why not? Thank you, honey, for fixing the bed sheets.
I appreciate
Let me
you.
pick up the trash from the living room.
Correct.
It's
Yeah,
it's that expectation versus that appreciation.
Gonna make
An
it,
affirmation.
she's gonna
Yes,
make it
yes,
worth your
Christian.
while.
So you think this is a cultural behavior, or it is a human behavior?
Both.
Now I'm interviewing you.
I think it's a human thing, but I feel that the Latin community turns the volume up to 21.
That's true.
That's the problem. I think that naturally, and I kind of wish Michael was here because he would be going crazy for this topic. Gender roles are natural for human biology. You know, obviously, women, because of biology, are expected to be the maternal figure, the life
nurturing
givers,
part,
nurturing
yeah.
part,
Yeah.
and the males who were born with supposedly biological stronger traits are supposed to go work the fields and make sure to
That's a
kill the
reality.
beasts and stuff like that, right? However, I also believe that our society has evolved from that way of thinking and that way of doing things, where, again, it's dangerous to set expectations, but it's amazing to set appreciation goals.
Yes.
Honey, today I want to unload the dishes because I love you. Oh, Christian, today I want to vacuum the floor because I care about you. You know, I think that's so much more important than expectations. Like, and I get it to a certain degree. Like, there's nights where I get home at 9 p.m. and like it's been a long day meeting with 4 peers, and I'm like, babe, I'm not feeling it tonight. But because I care about you, I'll do the dishes, no problem.
Yeah.
That's
Or
gorgeous.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna cook for you.
That's wonderful.
But you got to do the dishes. It's like that. It's
Yeah.
like a give and take, right?
It's an exchange, man.
Yeah. I need to teach.
I hope you keep like that because you're in a honeymoon now.
Yeah, that's it. I need to teach my
He's
kid
on fire.
appreciation
He's on
goals.
fire. Yeah,
Well,
he's on fire.
and maybe that's what sets me apart from most is because I've actively been trying, and I know we're going a little bit off topic here, but I've actively been trying in my marriage to deal with the nastiness as early as possible.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like my wife and I, and granted, it comes from like a little bit of generational trauma, a little bit of like family experience, seeing relationships not work. So that's kind of become a little bit of a phobia for me, where I'm like, I'm always thinking, how can I not be like the other people
Yeah.
that have made mistakes?
But the key is self-awareness, right? Like anybody has the power to change the trajectory of their life,
Right.
right? And their thought process and their narrative and all of those things. And there's freedom in that space, but you just have to deconstruct the narrative, have self-awareness, and choose it. You almost go against the grain is what it feels like, right? Because of that familiarity we
Right.
talked about.
Right.
And so what's uncertain and what's new feels a little bit like discomfort, but we only grow in discomfort.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
That's it.
You know, another narrative I want to talk about, because Kayla, brilliant question. I love this. But staying silent, I think, is a big one in the Latin community. No, quédate calladito.
Yes.
Stay quiet.
Yeah.
Stay quiet. It's okay. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't advocate for yourself.
It's
Shh,
true.
shh, shh. It's okay. Like, and
Being obedient?
being
That's
obedient,
what I got.
being obedient
Yes.
to a fault.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Because I think, and maybe this is generational trauma, maybe this is some sort of fear. I don't know exactly. But I feel that a lot of Latinos that I meet prefer, I just stay back
Yeah.
here. It's okay.
We don't like conflicts.
We don't like conflict.
Yeah.
But we live in a world where sometimes you got to stand up and speak for yourself, right?
Yes.
And I've had to, that's been one of my biggest narratives that I've had to break, especially since I started working here, because I'm teaching, I'm helping people in the community, youth, learn how to advocate for themselves. But if I can't advocate for myself,
Exactly.
how am I going to teach them to advocate for themselves? So like you said, I've literally had to get a sledgehammer and break that narrative in my life to tell my therapist, yo, I don't like what we're doing here. Can I get another therapist? And they're like, okay. It's like, because they never heard that before. People, they get complacent, but I'm like, I'm not vibing with you. I need somebody else. Right. And now I can stand firm, right, above reproach and be like, hey, youth, you can do this. I've done it before.
Yes.
So if I can do it, you most definitely can do it. Right. And I think a lot of that has to do also with the culture that I'm coming from. I'm a what is it? I'm Gen Z. I was born in '99, so I don't know what
So
what
it's
generation that makes me.
generational
I know I'm the
culture,
baby
yeah.
of the. Yeah, I know. I'm the young one here. I know, but I think that also is turning into a cultural thing with my current culture. People around my age, where like we've lived our entire life under that bubble, especially Latinos. Like Latinos in my age range, like a lot of them are still like that, but at the same time, a lot of us who are moving to the diaspora, as we call it, right, coming to America, we're learning that about ourselves and saying, wait, no, I do have a voice. You know, we're coming up on an election right now. Like, I do have a voice. I do have a right to vote. And granted, I understand that a lot of Latinos don't have that, sadly, and I understand that. But more than, if I have the ability to do that as a Puerto Rican who was born in the States, my voice needs to be heard. And I have a right to advocate for the needs of my community. Why am I voting for whatever politician when I should be voting for a politician that speaks to me, to my needs of my
Vote for
community?
not
Your
against,
principles.
before your interests.
Exactly. Why am I staying quiet in the background, following the river or whatever you want to call it, the current, right? No, I want to pick someone who actually speaks for me. And again, it's coming back to that narrative. Why do I have to stay quiet? Why can't I advocate for myself? Because my grandmother didn't do it? Because my grandmother didn't do it? And I say grandmother because in my family, the women, at least for me, because I was raised by a single mom for a long time, It's for my view, it's very matriarchal.
Yeah,
Which is another, whatever the word is, mothers.
Matriarcado.
Which is obviously very different from the standard Latino experience, which is very paternal and patriarchal, right? So I understand already I'm coming from a different perspective, right? But I think it's with these different perspectives that we can learn to grow.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't come from a broken home, okay? I had my mom and my dad. They were both awesome. But I was raised with a lot of women and by a lot of women. A lot. All my cousins were female. I used to play with my cousins and they were all female. I know a lot about women from a young age.
Wow, yeah.
Remember we were talking about that, Gigi? As far as my approach and the openness of the fairer sex with me. And it's not saying that I'm something special. It's just that it's that what he brings up, paternal. I did have that, but mostly maternal. I grew around with a lot of chicks in my family alone. They had friends, whatever it is. So I was around that a lot.
Yeah.
So now at this point, there's too much estrogen in the room.
That's what you say.
It's not that I run away at all. But I know already these balances.
It's to bring balance, yeah.
This is, I can't be in here right now. I could be a detriment to what you're sharing with her or whoever else. I have this foresight to it. You know, the Jedi in me, right? I'm going to leave this situation right now. I'm getting something out of this. I'm used to this, but let me keep it moving.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I feel, at least with me, that's weird in a lot of ways. I did grow up with that, but at the same time, I did grow up with that as well, and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's 3 more conversations
yeah.
that I want to have. You know, talking about the negatives first, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to get to the positives after all this, but I think this is important conversations to have. I think we also have an issue with poverty and economic strain in the Latin community, and I think it's. I know this is not necessarily an easy topic, right? There's a lot of different beliefs and different understandings, but that's also something that affects people when it comes to mental health challenges and substance use, right? If I'm not living a happy life, if I'm not living in a comfortable home, if my family dynamics are not the best, I'm more likely to use, or I'm more likely to drink, or I'm more likely to be depressed, face anxiety, suicidal ideation, right? And I think it's definitely a problem that maybe we don't need to go into too much conversation if there's no really other belief systems in this table, but it is something that is worth mentioning, right? Another thing that a lot of Latinos face is the struggle of undocumentation.
Well, I think that drives also into the poverty too, as well. Like those kind of interconnect, you know, in some areas, because the ability to get a better job, you know, and I think that there is almost like this, like, it's really unfortunate. You would almost call it like, what is it called? Like work. What is it called? Like work slavery or whatever.
Indentured servitude.
Yes, where you're
Indentured
like
servitude.
paying. You're paying such a low wage that's like below like the
medium.
Yeah,
medium
like the
wage.
medium wage that you're supposed to pay because
Minimum.
or minimum. Yeah, the minimum standard. Sorry, I'm losing my words. Because you are taking advantage and exploiting somebody who is undocumented, knowing that getting a job is going to be something that's really hard. So then you will offer a very low wage and take advantage of that piece. And that, I think, is just horrible, and I think it happens a lot.
It happens way too much.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we don't share names here, but I have a participant who's going through that right now, where, like, they're getting crap hours, they're getting crap pay at this place, and they can't really do anything about it because we're in the process of getting him papers. So until we get those, which, by the way, takes a really long time, we're stuck, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's another thing. And granted, again,
Can
a
I
lot of
share
people,
a
please,
little
yeah.
about that?
Please.
Okay. I have my point of view about that too. That could be an issue, but I go back to the same subject I said. It's education
Yeah.
and mentality. When I came to United States, we didn't have the resident paper. I came with visa with my 4 kids. I took the risk, but I have a petition through my brother. And I spent working here 10 years without documents. And that was not an excuse for me to work hard, me and my husband,
I love you, Gigi.
to work hard, to teach my kids. They have to work too, and not working in a store or something like that. My oldest son started working in landscaping. You know, he was 15 years old. So it's not an excuse. I'm just trying to give my people a push with this.
Yeah.
It's not as an excuse. Be undocumented to grow.
Yeah.
There are ways, and there's we need more help.
Yeah.
But there help here to, even though when people come to the United States and they don't have documents, they can start studying, and they have a program they call ESOL. I don't know if it exists,
Yeah.
but it's for kids who doesn't speak the language, and there are resources. There are, but we need to look for it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we need to
Absolutely.
work for it.
So
Absolutely.
would you say there's a lack? So you said it was like a lack of education on the piece, because I
Yes.
agree, and I think essentially the mindset is everything, right? Like the mindset that I have going into something, because that's like my grandfather. He did the same thing, and he came with like nothing and
Yep.
built, but it was working hard and
Yes.
finding it out.
Yes.
But I
Absolutely.
also think there's an entrepreneurial mindset.
You're
where
wired
it's-
different.
Yes.
Correct. So you
Wired
got to
different,
take that
yeah.
into account
Yeah,
too,
that's
because
true.
not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be the ones that struggle a little bit more because they need to find their way into a job, right? Like working with somebody. But I think with the resources to find the right kind of work that for them, and the education is huge. People they need
education
to educate themselves.
is a great tool
Yep.
for
Yeah.
anything, because when you have the knowledge of something and you have, it's like people when they come here to South Florida Wellness.
Yeah.
Even for me, when I started here, I said, "Oh my God, if I knew this before when I started,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, there are a lot of resources. The
Yeah.
only thing that people are not aware of it.
Yeah.
They don't know, you know. So it's like the help is there. We need to look for it.
What would you say it was like for you integrating into America?
Well, it was a different culture, but at the same time, because I've been traveling a lot since I was young, it was easier for me, but for my kids was worse because we used to live in I told you once, I'm a country woman. We used to live in a nice house in a mountain, and they were so free. So when they came here, for them was a shock. They had trauma that
Yeah.
they working on that actually still. They, you know, because it was a big change. For me, I don't know, because when you have a family where you're thinking it's about, you know, work to provide for them.
Yeah.
So it was not too bad. I always been like an open mind.
Yeah.
you know,
And
always-
you're a jack of a lot, of trades.
Yeah.
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 So you're listen, Gigi is phenomenal.
She's a polymath.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that is the strength that you brought here to really be able to like establish yourself. And it's like that is the hope and encouragement for other individuals coming into the country, right? Or other individuals that are kind of going through maybe they identified with some of the challenges or the issues that we brought up. Because
Correct,
look at you're a testament of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you, Gigi.
So yes, it's always and there is always hope, and there are always resources. The only thing we need to learn how to look for them, and I think we have a lot of things that we, as a community, we need to face. We need to grow.
Yeah.
We need to evolve.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get there. So
Yeah. There's always hope.
yes,
There's
always,
always
of
there's
course,
always hope.
of
Like,
course.
and that's another thing, and maybe that could be another narrative too. There's a lot of bleakness in Latin communities. Like you get stuck doing the same thing for 27 years, and then you retire because you broke a leg, and then that's it. You know, it's like I feel that we get a little hopeless sometimes in the Latino community, and you know, there's so much hope. You know, there's so much light, so much possibilities. We, like Gigi said, we just need to work for it. You know.
Correct.
There's one last conversation to have in the negatives, and I'm not gonna lie. It gives me a little bit of pause because it's not necessarily easy. discrimination and racism. We started talking about it a little bit before the episode, but and I know that many people have different perspectives and different belief systems when it comes to discrimination and racism, and I respect that. But I do feel, because I've seen it with my own eyes, there is a problem in America with racism or discrimination or prejudice, whichever word you feel more comfortable using. But there is a hate problem in America. And 4 years ago, in California, if you would have asked me this question, I would have said, yeah, but it's not that much. But now, 4 years later, I've seen it with my own eyes multiple times. And it's not something that we can stay quiet about too often. Because although I do understand the perspective of, for example, not letting it affect you because other people, right, whatever, but it's kind of hard sometimes to not let it affect you when you're just talking with your mom in a grocery store and somebody's like, hey, you're in America, you're supposed to speak English, go back to your country, right? That's something that I've heard and I've seen with my own eyes, and it's hard to look away from that. So obviously, I want to open the space here because everybody has different experiences and we all have different perspectives. I want to hear your perspective on the issue of discrimination and racism for the Latin community or the Hispanic community.
Yeah, I don't like the word racism.
Okay.
Talk to us about that.
I like more so maybe classism, more so bigotry.
And that exists in all the cultures.
That's right.
All the countries in the world.
But more so in our culture, that's been a big thing. Right?
Yeah.
You know how I view things on that. Like what Gigi said, I'm not going to make it an excuse. We are all high value individuals here.
I agree.
We bring immense value. That's what I'm going to bring to the table. I'm not going to say, oh, because of this and or that, the color of my skin, because who I am, what culture I'm for. It's victim mentality, okay? People are wired differently. But how things have been over the decades, you're told that this is just the way it is.
Why?
Kayla, that's just the way it is.
Deal with it.
No.
Deal with it. No.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
You're not going to tell me how to think or how I'm going to view the world. I am going to be Ed. This is what I can do for you and what you can do for me. That's it.
That's correct.
If I don't get the job, if that thing, that opportunity falls through, maybe I just wasn't qualified for it. Oh, I can't break down these barriers. There's not enough support there. I am going to start one. That's it. Create your own energy.
Correct.
That's it. I am so sick of the excuses. I'm sick of it. And a lot of it is that stupid indoctrination. It's about control. But some people are wired differently. Some
Sure.
people are you. Some people are you and you. I would like to say, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Now that I'm saying this, I have to watch how I'm communicating with those who are listening to me. I could easily be a manipulator, right?
Yeah.
Because of my approach. How am I going to convey that to you? I could easily say, but this is just the way it is, Kayla. This is just the way it is, Gigi. And now it becomes that systemic thing, that now it's that excuse. It goes from generation to generation
Yeah.
and generation,
Yeah.
and then it needs to be broken.
But isn't it funny that you're talking about it on a systemic level, but it's also basically down to the family unit level too of tradition of this is just the way we've
Starts
done
in the
things?
home.
Correct.
Starts
Right.
in the home.
That is
Starts
correct.
and continues in the home. I don't like saying end when it's talking about, recovery. When it ends, it ends. It starts and continues. It ends when that cycle is broken, right?
Yeah.
That's it. This is a real sensitive point to me because I meet a lot of high value people who communicate it in that way. You can't say that, dude. You can't say that, sister. You can't. You can't. You're wired differently. You know the value. You are so smart. Look at all that you create. Don't say that, oh, now this is against you. Life is hard. Life is hard.
It is true.
There's no way around it.
That's it.
It's true.
Only through it.
We should have this. Okay, then you create it.
It's the mentality. We
It
need
is
to
mentality.
change
Exactly.
Mindset. It's the
That's what
mindset.
And it
yes.
took me a long time to kind of like speak or convey this message like that, the way I think.
Yeah.
Because I did let that creep in.
Right.
Oh, it's because of no.
True.
But that's a
Yeah.
fixed mindset. That's a fixed mindset, right? And we're breaking away from that. And really, for all cultures, we need to have a growth mindset, right? There's freedom in that. There's the breaking of these narratives, these traditional systemic issues that we deal with, and it starts with us, right? And so the more that we each individually, I have to pursue that, right? And then it changes the trajectory of the little people that I raise, the influence that I have, right? For the people that we come into contact, because we all have influence. Where are, where's your influence? Well, where are the places you go to? Who are the people you know? Where are your regulars, your community? Everybody has a level of influence, but it starts with them.
Yeah. I agree with what you guys are saying. I do. However, there is a point that I think needs to be made, and is that although when it comes to, for example, like we were talking about right now, like jobs, right? Create your own energy. I agree. But now we're also seeing Latinos go through some systemic bigotry, if you will. For example, not so long ago when I'll never forget in California where they did I forgot the name, we called it the no knock, but I forgot what it was called when people in California, a police officer could show up at your doorstep, check your identification, and if you don't have papers, you're going to jail. And a lot of people who are documented were targeted because of that. A lot of people that I knew
That happens. It's
were
true.
targeted because of that, right? Not to go away from Latino, but even in the African American or the Black experience, where I literally saw a video last night, a police body cam of a guy wearing a hoodie walking down the street. He was waiting to get picked up for a job. Police officer stops him, say, "Hey, you match a description." And then the guy's like, I don't know. I'm just waiting for my wife for work. I'm not resisting arrest. And you can see it in the video clear as day. He was just talking with him. He was following. And the guy picks him up and body slams him behind his back. And all you hear is the guy go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did." That's the kind of
discrimination
that I'm talking about. And again, it may seem as not super like, don't let it affect you. For example, the go back to your country, or you're in America, go speak English, whatever. But as a person of value, it does piss me off, because I do have value.
Because it's something
is,
like
yeah.
It's happened to me plenty of times. Plenty of times. You know that crime bill? Oh, I'm sure I didn't say that. Passed in the early 90s by somebody who's in office. I'm sorry. That affected me. That affected me. I was slammed against the walls because of that. That affected me.
Right?
All right? Did that stop me? No. And a lot of the times who is hardest on us? Us.
ourselves. Yeah.
It's the Hispanic cop. If you're black, it's the black cop.
We do.
You're
Yeah, it's
making
true.
our community look bad. Yeah. I've made it to this level of authority. I'm going to be even harder on you. Yeah. I'm going to be more scared of that Puerto Rican cop. He sees me acting a certain way. Hey, bro, we worked really hard to get to this level. I'm going to teach you a lesson. You're making us look bad, and they'll be the hardest ones on you. It's not about the white thing or nothing like that. Lots of times they're the hardest. And I experienced it. That's what I'm saying. Life, there's no such thing as black and white, bro. Nothing. It's all shades of gray. I experienced that, like I said, and it's because a lot of that, all right? But it's not an excuse, man. It's not. I can't, Chris. I can't.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not mentioning it as an excuse. I'm mentioning it as a problem.
It's an issue that we have.
Like
to
if we have
face.
a great example, if we're in a workspace and somebody comes into work every day cussing us out and saying, "How are you doing, mother effer," or whatever, that person's gonna get fired.
Right.
Right. And I don't see why in society we can't have that same mentality. Like if somebody's truly on a regular basis showing signs of like hateful towards a community, why can't we do something about it in terms of like policing or whatever it is, right? Why do we have to wait until again happens again and 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 again before we do something about it?
That's just how it is, man. That's just how it is. It's not until it affects certain communities that things are done. It's always like that.
Right.
Oh, now it's affecting us. Now legislation gets passed, whatever it is.
But why can't we advocate for that? That's the point that I'm making.
We can and we do.
Of course.
That's
we?
that.
It
But
just
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. It's like, and that's where it comes down to.
Right.
And again, I love the analogy of creating your energy. If it is a problem in your community, go to the polls and
Yeah.
vote.
I didn't realize
Talk to your
I was
representatives.
somebody- we were looking for change, was like I was saying, and it was like I didn't realize that I was somebody, like I could be that person that advocates for those things.
Yeah.
If this matters to me and I'm seeing something that speaks to a cause that I have that I want to stand up for, then I'm going to stand in that crossfire.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to stand in the gaps for those people. And I think a lot of the times people are looking for somebody to stand up for them, not realizing that they have legs themselves to stand on.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And so it's like, how do we then feel empowered to play a part in that? It's the same thing with the government. We're the people, they serve us, and
Correct.
yet it's so backwards.
Right.
How did we get here?
How do we get here? Of course.
We see that, huh?
Yeah.
What do I keep you posting? Don't complain about there are no good men. You be one.
Yes.
That's
Be
it.
the good man. Yeah.
Be the good man.
Be the change you want to
Good
see in the
woman.
world. There's all of these
Or
things,
woman, of course.
yeah, because there's issues. There's so many issues,
Yes.
you know, across the board. But what are we doing to change ourselves and how we show up in our community,
Exactly.
right? Because that's what makes a difference in those issues. And speaking about it, right, and being that person that stands up on in those places. I don't want to wait around anymore for somebody else to take an action. I'm
Yeah.
going to take an action for the things that
Correct.
matter most to me.
Advocate for
And
what you care about.
Even though it didn't happen to you, because in my case, like I said, I never had to go through that. I never felt discriminated in this country. Never. Not even with my accent.
I love your accent.
Yes. So it's not something that I can talk from my perspective, but it happens to other people.
Yes, it does.
But what can I do to help those people to overcome those issues? You know, those traumas or obstacles, barriers, whatever. You know, that's the work that I want to do.
What can you
for
do
my-
to help them?
Well, first of all,
You see-
change the way of seeing it
Okay.
and receiving it. Create in the person a better self-esteem.
Speak
Your
life.
value is now what you project. Your
Yeah.
value is how you act.
Amen.
The things you do.
Yes.
That's what your value is, and nobody can go against that.
Yeah.
Not culture, not money, not a social level, not a language, nothing.
Yep.
Because most of the people, they are discriminated and create a bad, how you say, a bad fame, a bad
Reputation.
Rapport,
reputation about some kind of a population or society. Is because
It's a
the behavior.
stereotype, like a stereotype.
Yeah, the stereotype, it's because the action, the behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we prove that we are good and we are worker and we are honest and going to do things right,
Yeah.
not going to happen.
And also,
So my point of view is, and my push and my encouragement
Yeah.
is that we need to act like we have value. But
Exactly.
our action are going to talk about that.
yeah. Yeah. And just to add a little bit to that, I would also add, if we have value, therefore we should advocate for ourselves. You know,
And for each other.
And
right?
for each
'Cause
other.
We
And for
bear
each
each
other.
other's burden. So I may not have had that experience, but I'm an advocate for my people.
Exactly.
You know, and so I will stand up because
Yeah.
these are the things that I believe in,
Absolutely.
regardless of whether the experience happened to me or
Absolutely.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I have my testimony here because when I started here, I started and I am in the front desk, but I don't do only that. I want to go forward, you know, and I do it, and I'm not expecting like, oh, I'm not going to do it because that's not my job. I'm not going to do it because they don't pay me for that. That's not my mentality.
No, it's not.
You know, so I go forward and
Forward thinking.
I try to advocate for my
Yep.
my community, even though that's not my job in here. I just came here to work there, okay, I do it.
Yep.
To help people to fill out our application and stuff, I'll do that. But I want to go more and advocate for them.
Absolutely.
And explain to them, like sometimes when they come and say something like, oh, no, because my son is doing this, he's using whatever substance use, whatever, and I say, do you know the reason why he's doing that? Let's find the root. So
Let's get to the root, baby.
let's find the root. Why
No,
he's doing that? I think he needs help, but you need help too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's
yes.
the type of things that I consider, like, we as a society, like we're talking about the Hispanic, we need to prove that we can make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I see it.
That's a beautiful way to end it. So we're gonna cut it off right now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to tune in next week when we talk about some of these positive things for the Latin and Hispanic heritage. Yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast everywhere you can. And if you're one of those lovely, lovely listeners over at Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you. We see you. We love you. Please leave us a 5-star rating if you can. Other than that, we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.